Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilou here. I'm in beautiful Bali at the Bali Spirit Festival here to have a conversation with you. I'm excited to interview you about the sacred fertility yoga. We're going to speak about fertility. And you went through quite some challenges in your life, hence this book. I know a lot of women are going through challenges in that realm, so this is an important video for men and women, actually, because I guess the couples plays a big role. Tell us why you decided to create this book and what happened exactly in your life.
Well, I guess I was around, as many women now in modern times, we wait until we're older to start to have our children. We're busy with our careers and with our lives, and people are getting married later and connecting with their soulmates later in life. I think women are being a lot more contemplative about just jumping in and having a baby with someone. So we really want to make sure that we have the right person, that we're connected in the right way, so that we can have a conscious birth and bring a child into the world with great awareness. And so, of course, I'm a yoga teacher, and I had a lot of different careers. I started in fashion, actually, and then...
You're from New York?
I'm from New York, yep, born and raised in outside of New York City. And then I became a social worker, and I worked for many years with group work. I became a psychoanalytic psychotherapist, and I worked in the inner city with people with homeless people, HIV. I worked in the inner city with children who were at risk of abuse and neglect. So my career was kind of crazy, and then I wound up becoming a yoga teacher. I went back to school. It was a time I lost my father, so it was a very kind of internal shift for me, and I went back to university and got my master's in social work. And then I started teaching as a psychotherapist and running corporate wellness programming. And somehow, I don't even know how it happened, I got caught up in yoga, and a friend of mine who had a business asked me to come and teach for him. He worked with very high-end clients, like very famous people, and doing personal training. And he really saw a need for them to have a little bit more health, and a lot of them, even though they had everything you could possibly imagine, were extremely stressed out and having a lot of difficulty, mental difficulties, physical difficulties. And so he said to me, can you come, and with your psychology background, can you start to teach them some wellness tips? Can you help them with their breath and their bodies and their diet and nutrition? So I started working with him, and so from there I wound up meeting my business partner at the time, and we opened Sonic Yoga in New York City, which is my yoga business. And so all through this time I'm very busy looking for my partner, always wanting to have a baby and to...
You were already in a relationship?
At that point, I had been in a few relationships.
6 in the City.
Oh yes, a few. I'm loyal, so it'll be 5 years with one, and then a little break, and then another one, thinking he's the one. And just knowing that it just wasn't the right time. The time wasn't right, the person wasn't right, the connection wasn't there, and so I kept waiting, and then before you know it, here I am. I'm 40 years old, and like, oh no, I want to have the baby. What am I going to do? I have to start making this happen. So I met a man at the time who I fell in love with, and he was an amazing person, but he had some darkness, some struggle. He was struggling with some things. Anyway, so we got married, and we tried to have a baby, and it didn't come. The baby didn't come, It was a very emotional, sad time for me, because it's something, when you want something like that so badly, like anything we want, we can have, we can manifest, right? If we want to travel to Bali, we just make it happen. You can make anything happen in your life. But as a woman, when you get to this place where you want to have your baby and it's not coming, and you feel completely out of control and completely, devastated, because it's like you have this great loss, this great void, and you want nothing more than to fill it, but you can't, right? You're trying and trying.
And it's more about letting go than wanting it so bad.
Absolutely. That's the that's the book. See, did you read the book yet? That's the theme.
I'm gonna read it.
You're gonna read it. So we tried, and it wasn't coming. And now in medical science, there's lots of assistance that women can receive. A lot of medical assistance for fertility. So there's lots of drugs that we can take, and so I went the medical route. I was referred by my gynecologist to a fertility doctor, and I went to a fertility clinic. And basically, what they do is they pump you up with hormones, which is, not the most healthy thing. But at this point, even though I was a yogi and living a very healthy lifestyle, I have to say, I think I was desperate. I was, at that point, I was going to do anything, like sell my soul to the devil to get my baby. So they pump you up with these hormones, and your body produces like multiple eggs. And then they harvest them. And that's the in vitro fertilization. And then they take the sperm from your partner and they put them together in a little dish, the test tube baby, right? And I tried this process several times. Let me back up a little bit. I also first, before that, tried all the natural things. I went to the shaman. I went to the...
Of course you did.
Of course I did. I went to my yoga practice. I went to
You prayed, you declare you intended.
I did everything. I had
begged.
Attention. I begged. I worked with my acupuncturist. I drank crazy Chinese herbs. There was a year when my house just stunk like Chinese herbs because I was always cooking these potions and taking the potions. And
reading the books.
Reading the books.
And the workshop.
Seeing the shaman and clearing my field and reading every psychic and every person, intuitive healer that I consulted with. They all said to me, "You're going to have a baby." And they told me, a baby girl is coming. And so I said, "You mean a baby girl from China? Like, am I going to adopt a baby girl?" And they said, "No, you're going to have a baby." So I had this hope, I believe that, the seers can see and they know. And so I felt that hope deep inside. And I was...
How old were you then? Because you were already with a partner, so you're more than 40.
Now I'm already like 42 maybe. This is like 2 years later.
Tick-tock.
Exactly. And then I think my last real try with that was I decided I was going to try one more time, and we were running out of money. We were running out of funds because to do these...
It costs a lot of money, especially in the U.S.
It costs a lot of money, especially in the U.S. So there are some insurance companies that cover it, but usually they'll give you like one chance, and then if it doesn't work, then, that's it. So you have to pay on your own, and it's tens of thousands of dollars. It's an extreme. The drugs are really expensive. The medical treatment is very expensive.
It's very hard on the couple, too.
It's very stressful on the couple. I mean, and as I mentioned earlier, my husband had some frailty. He wasn't, he had some stuff he was struggling with, and it was really rough. I think more so, not more so, but equally on both of us. And so... Anyway, the final, I think, reach before I surrendered was I went to India and I met a doctor online, Dr. Malpani, who is an amazing man, and his wife, and I went to Mumbai because to go in Mumbai and have the fertility treatment is like 1/4 of what it costs in the States. And at that point, I did a donor egg. So... because the medical doctors were telling me, you're too old now, your eggs are dried up, you're not going to get pregnant, it's, you have to try some other way. So they suggest this donor egg where there's a young Indian girl who donated her egg. They pump her with drugs, they take her eggs, and then they take one of her eggs and put it with my husband's sperm inside of me to make the baby. The donor egg infertility, donor egg treatment. So anyway, I went there and I felt like India, the motherland, it's all of the Shakti is here. And
this is it.
This is it. It's going to happen. So I went, they put her in, the egg in, and I went to Somtaram in Kerala to the retreat center, and I had Ayurvedic treatment. And
you went to see Amma there.
I went to see Amma. I did.
The blessing.
Amma is my mama. She's the one I think who really I went to a lot during this process to help me along. So yeah, I went to see Amma and I prayed and I got home and it takes a couple of weeks for them to know if the baby takes, and or months. I can't know. It takes I think maybe 4 weeks. So by then I had come back home to New York, and they did the test, and it didn't take. The baby didn't take. So.
How were you then?
How old?
How were you feeling?
Oh, how was I feeling? Well, I don't know. I think I was talking with a friend of mine about the book, and I think what happens is it's like a mother losing her child. Once the conception is there and it's in your body, you receive that as it's your baby, no matter how little microscopic cells it is. And when you lose that baby, it's like you've lost. It's like your child dying. Like how could that feel? I was completely devastated. I mean, I was, and so it was rough. I went into a pretty dark place, and processing all of the grief around the loss, and just kind of the peak of everything. And my husband was not doing well with it either. He was really having a hard time. And then it was after that I started to have some realizations about him as a partner, and did I choose the right person? I think I was getting desperate, and I just chose someone because I just wanted to have my baby, and I needed a husband, even though I loved him, but he didn't have the strength to be that kind of presence. And I started having these thoughts like, do I want, even if I have a baby, do I want this person to be my baby's father? Like maybe I made the wrong decision. And so it came to, then there was a whole process that happened, and at one point I was in a meditation, and I realized the universe told me, you have to go. You have to leave him. You have to leave. You have to go. So I called my teacher, Shiva Rea. You know Shiva, and we talked, and she said, come to my home in California. She was going to India, and just take some time, be with the goddess, go into retreat. I went and had a Panch Karma in LA. And
so it's like a woman's circle? Or?
No, I was alone. It was me and her kitty cat. I just went to her stay in her home, just because I needed to be away to get some perspective on, is this the right thing that I'm doing? Am I meant to leave this partner? So.
You were 43 by then.
Oh, yes. Now I think I was maybe even 43 or 44. And so indeed, I went through this retreat, this personal retreat with a lot of reflection and just looking at everything I had been through. And I made the decision that it was better that I left my husband. It wasn't serving either of us.
Yeah. Were you making yourself wrong in that process for desiring so much this child, putting so much pressure on yourself or on the body, or trying all these things? I mean, how were you?
I think, I really, thank the universe that I have so much faith. And I have such a spiritual, connection that, no, I wasn't. I just was trying to follow my dharma, my path, and really listen for the signs from the universe. And, of course, I really never felt like, I have a problem. I really was kind of more like the doctors were telling me, you can't have a baby, you're infertile. And then the healers were telling me, you're having a baby. And in my heart, I knew it was coming. Like I knew it was coming in some way or the other. But yeah, I was...
It can be confusing because on the spiritual path, we know it's about letting go and letting it be, and then it coming to us. And then there's part of us that wants it so much, obviously. So there's this whole... We're torn kind of apart, yeah.
Absolutely. But there definitely was at that point a state of, surrendering and just letting go and saying, okay, well, maybe, this isn't happening for me. Maybe that birth of that child is going to come in another form, And so I was just, at that point, I hit the peak, I hit the darkness, and I came out the other side with just like open eyes and just looking for the signs, just trying to find the signs that were going to guide me at that point. And so I wound up, at that time I was again in meditation, and I saw this little cottage on the beach. I saw myself there living in this little cottage, and I went home to stay with my mom for a bit after I had left my husband, and I went online and I saw this ad for a lakefront cottage in Montauk, which is a beachfront where I live now. It's the town I live in now. And it was this beautiful little cottage that it is very difficult to get these kind of places to live there because it's so populated and there are not a lot of places to rent. Like, it's really hard. Like, 1 in 1,000 you're going to get a place like that. And so I called up the gentleman that was renting the home, and he said, we started talking, and he was so intrigued that I was a yoga teacher, and he said, I really want you to have this place. I want you to come and look at it. And that was before I was going to California. So I'm going to California. I'm going to be back in a month. He said, don't worry, I'm going to keep it for you. I'm keeping this place.
Nice flow.
Really nice. So I get there, and I go see the place, and it was the place in my vision. You know, I saw the place. And so I moved there. And it was crazy because here I am living at the beach, which is like 3 hours from the yoga studio I owned. I owned 2 yoga studios, one in Westchester, one in New York City. But I needed that sanctuary. You know, I needed really to be in a place by the water, which is what heals me, and to be in a place where I could really just kind of start again, you know, start fresh. And so then a few months later, I meet this kind, beautiful man. I'm going to cry now. And he sort of found me, you know, he found me, and I was just very kind of low-key, very internal, and we fell in love. And we were together for the summer. I was very tentative about getting involved in another relationship, you know, kind of just like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. But it was one of those things. I was just telling someone the other day, like, when we touched each other, you know, we touched our hands. It was like, that was it. We're together since every night when I'm not traveling or he's not traveling. You know, he became my soul's partner. So I met him and we fell in love, and we were together for just a few months, and then we were like, already, okay, how are we going to plan our life? Where are we going to live? What should we do? And
I guess the baby conversation came up pretty quickly, no?
Absolutely.
Still had that in your heart and mind.
That in my heart, and I also had in my heart. I really, at that point, I had gone through that cycle of loss, and I really felt like, you know, this may not happen for me, and it's okay. You know, I had really come to that point of being okay with just whatever was coming to me. And so I said to him that the talk was really about, you know, I don't know. He's younger than me, and I said, you know, if we move in together and become partners, I don't know. I don't think I can have a baby. I can't, you know, I can't get pregnant. I've been trying for 5 years, and it's not coming. And you know, you're younger than me, and if you want to have a family, then maybe this is the time to make the break and not be together, because I don't want to take that opportunity away from you. And so he said to me, what do you mean? Of course you're going to have a baby. Look at you. You're so beautiful. You're so young. It's coming. I feel it. I know it. And then...
How refreshing.
I know. And I said, oh. And then I said, but what if it doesn't? You know, what if it doesn't come? And he said, well, then if it doesn't come, then we'll adopt. We'll go get our own baby. It's okay. Well, I want to be with you. And so I just... So we moved in together, and... so auspicious that we were together. I met him in June, and December I had already had this trip planned to come to Bali. So I came to Bali my first time in 2008, and had an amazing trip, and I missed him so much because before I left we had been together every single day. You know, we hadn't been apart. And so then I came home. And he said, let's do this. Let's try. So we stopped using birth control. We had only known each other like 6 months, and the next month I was pregnant. And I was in Mexico when I realized I was pregnant. I started to feel that, you know, that.
You were how old?
Now I'm 45. And so I went to see the doctor in Mexico. I was teaching a yoga retreat in Sayulita, And it was interesting because he was this Mexican doctor, and they tested me and I was pregnant. It was positive. And he said to me, and I was like so ecstatic but so afraid, it was this like, oh my God. And
This is it.
And up until that point I had never ever had a miscarriage or anything. Like I had never even gotten pregnant at all. Do you know what I mean? A lot of women, when they go through these struggles, they keep getting pregnant and losing the baby, or doing the fertility treatment, then they get pregnant, then they lose it, right? But for me, I never ever got pregnant at all. So this was like, okay, whoa. And I said, I have to call my doctor in New York because I have an advanced maternal age. That's what they told me, because I'm old and I need to get special drugs and hormones. And he said, what are you talking about? He goes, you're 45, you're a young woman. In Mexico, women have babies at 45 all the time. It's nothing to worry about. Anyway, I went home. And 1 month later, I lost the baby. My little boy. I think he was my little boy.
Were you already talking to the soul?
Yeah. I started talking to the soul years ago, like a long time ago. I was talking to the soul and letting him know that I was waiting and I was ready. And, I think part of it was I was with the wrong partner, so the baby wasn't coming. She was waiting. He was waiting. So then I had the miscarriage, which was pretty devastating. I was 8 weeks pregnant, and I went to see my partner, and I went to the doctor, and they went to see the heartbeat, and it was stopped. So that was... And, at that point, when you're waiting so long, like you think that's your only chance. I thought, okay, that's it. I'm not having, and it's okay. I'm okay. It was a very powerful time for me. I had lots of friends and family supporting me, though, lots of love. And I remember my sister-in-law saying to me, no, this is good because you got pregnant. You got pregnant. That means you're going to get pregnant again. Like, this is really good. And I was like, why do I feel so devastated, And another friend of mine, another yoga teacher, this beautiful woman, Cher, said to me, once the baby is growing inside of you, you feel its life, you feel that force, and you become the mother. And for it to go, to die it's a devastating thing. You're carrying this child inside of you, and it loses its life force. So anyway, I went to see the doctors, and they told me everything is okay. I had to have a DNC, and they told me wait 1 month, and then you can start to try again. So we waited 1 month, and the next month I didn't get my period. My cycle didn't come, and I started to think, oh, maybe I'm pregnant again. So I called my doctor. She said, come in. We did the blood test. Pregnant. My second time. So, but then I was spotting a lot during that pregnancy. In the beginning, I was spotting, and every time I would little spot, I said, I'm miscarrying. I kept, I was in so much fear around the baby. And so, anyway, she stayed with me. My baby girl, Jaya. She stayed with me, and I had an amazing pregnancy. I was so ecstatic to be pregnant. I remember I went with my teacher Shiva to Costa Rica, and I was like 6 or 7 months, and just being on the beach with my
a lot of light coming in.
I was so ecstatic. I think I was the most happy pregnant woman in the world. Pregnant women are always complaining about this and that, and I was just like, oh no, I love it. I was throwing up. I was so happy to be, filled with this life of my daughter Jaya. And then I had to go through all of when you're older in the States, they put you through all this like genetic testing. So it was pretty rough until at 4 months they do the genetic testing, and you have to go see a counselor. And what happens is when you're like 20, the chances of you having a genetically mutation, a child with, it's mainly Down syndrome, but there's many other diseases that can come through genetic defect. When you're like 20, it's like 1 in 10,000, And then when you're 30, it's like 1 in 5,000. When you're 40, it's like 1 in 1,000. When you're 45, it's like 1 in 6. So they give me these statistics, and here I am 45, like, okay, I have like a 20% chance that my baby's going to be a Down syndrome or some other, something wrong. So you're waiting and you're waiting and, you're hoping and you're praying that she's going to be okay. And I remember I had the test, and then I had to wait for 2 weeks. And I went again with my teacher, Shiva. We were up in Kripalu. I don't know if you know, it's an amazing retreat center in the Berkshires in the States. And I spent those 2 weeks with my tribe, with my yoga teacher, family, and everybody. We all prayed and held each other and meditated and practiced. And when I got home, my husband, I couldn't call because I was completely. So my partner, my husband, he called them and he told me, we're having a baby girl, and she's totally healthy and perfect. And so in March 13th, she came, 2009. Jaya.
46?
46 years old when I gave birth. Totally healthy birth, beautiful girl. I was in heaven. So it's
and tell us in few words, because we're running a bit over time. How is it in the book? How do you explain that? Was it already written? Was it somewhat your destiny? Did you learn some things? Can we really share that experience? I mean, can women learn something from what you lived, or is it like each journey is so different that it's kind of we have to go through whatever we have to go through?
No, absolutely. I think that each journey is different, and we do have to go through what we go through, but because I learned so much from my journey, I want to share that with other women. So the book is it's a part memoir where I tell my story, and it's a part, I have all of my teachers that guided me along the way, and then there are practices for women to follow so that they can learn to really, number one, become the vessel, the most healthy vessel they can be to receive the baby, and to learn ways to decrease their stress and ways to deal with this idea of that desperation that I went through, and also ways to deal with loss, because there will be losses along the way. There will be places where things are going to be sad, and how do you process that, and how do you work with that? And also there will be ideas of ways to work with your partner, and how to work together and stay strong through this process. And so it's really a very practical guide for women that are challenged in this way. And I think I have a hopeful story. I have so many women that come to me that I have maybe even just my peers. I know like maybe 5 or 10 women that are trying to get pregnant now that can't. There's so many women because they're waiting till their 40s to have babies. And then they hear my story and they're like, oh, now I have hope. You're giving me hope. Maybe it can happen for me too, And I think that to be able to share that with these women that are struggling, and, even if it doesn't come the baby, there are other ways. There are other...
It's a soul journey, ultimately.
Exactly, ultimately. And the thing is that I did try again after Jaya, because I wanted it too. And my gynecologist said to me, don't be greedy. You got your baby, don't be greedy. But I really wanted it. So I went through it again. Like I started thinking, I want it again. And I went to see a fertility doctor again, like even after that, because I was feeling that urge, and I wasn't getting pregnant again, And so I had to let that go. I had to give it up. I had to process the loss and even just be with my one baby. So it's this constant, And I also think the book is relevant for anyone who's looking to create fertility in their life in any way. It doesn't just have to be for babies.
Yeah, something you really, really want.
Something you really, really want that you're having trouble finding or making happen. And I think, as you were saying, that ability to peak and surrender and just let go and to allow yourself to be guided by the wisdom of the source, and just knowing that the journey is going to unfold, and it's where
we have a tendency when we really want something to ask, to beg, to pray, to be obsessed, and so whether we want to meet a partner or have a baby or whatever our dreams are, the biggest recommendation that you would have would be to just Just is it about faith, really, ultimately, or?
Well, it is about faith, but it's also primarily about receptivity, being receptive, receiving, right? And I learned that
Knowing we're deserving.
knowing you're deserving, absolutely. And I learned that so powerfully from Amma. We talked about Amma, learning to just receive that, open your heart, take in, right? Just be the receptacle, be the vehicle for the universe to move through.
Without knowing exactly what it's going to look like.
Exactly. And connecting to your softness, to your Ida Nadi line, to the lunar aspect of yourself. I mean, I was doing silly things, like usually when I drive like, in the States, we don't drive as fast as you do in Europe, but, I get on the highway and I'm going really fast. And part of my practice was just to drive below the speed limit, just to move more slowly through life, to breathe more slowly and reduce the stress, right? Stress is a huge obstacle, and there's scientific studies that have proven how stress just wreaks havoc on our immune system and on our physical body, and how, as women, our fertility is greatly influenced. And for men, stress is a huge roadblock to fertility. So
we miss the sacredness of life, because the title is Sacred Fertility Yoga.
Yes, the sacredness, the ritual, the prayer, the intention, the visualization, the connection,
And the day-to-day, because yoga is really a way of living, a way of being, a philosophy, a way of life.
Yes, absolutely. The daily practice is so key in this experience, and for anyone, but especially in this particular demographic, for this particular type of person, really allowing that sacredness, bringing the sacred, even if you want to go the medical route and you want to do the in vitro fertilization, bringing the Reiki practitioner into the surgery with you, bringing your mala beads with you, chanting the mantras, blessing, making it, if you're going to go the medical route, make it a spiritual experience, let the spirit support that. I don't have any judgment. I understand what it's like. You want to try everything. And the Western medical, there are some miracles that happen for women. And I think that, I'm open to any option of how it can work for you. Everyone's going to find a different way. Some women will adopt. Some women will have the fertility treatments. Some women will get pregnant naturally. And some women will just get a puppy dog, or create an piece of art, right? There's many ways.
If we could summarize why we're here on Earth, why do you think that is? Why are we having this experience?
Well, I'll quote from my dear sister Lynn, who's left the planet. She was my big sister, and she introduced me to the spiritual path. And she said to me once, "We're only here for one reason, and that is to love and to be loved, to give love and receive love." That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this delicious interview.
Thank you.
And namaste to all of you, beautiful co-creators. Sending you much love from beautiful Bali, the lovely Bali Spirit Festival. Thank you.